Los Angeles Rams finished the 2022 season with a record of 5-12, which was very disappointing. They had a lot of high hopes going into the season after winning a Super Bowl, but a lot of guys got injured. All right, so when you look at 2023, you got to ask, did they get better or worse in this offseason? And honestly, the Rams have less talent going into this season, but those guys that got hurt, all right, the big three, they're all coming back. All right. The three best players on this team are going to be back after injuries as Cooper Cup, Matt Stafford, and Aaron Donald. Now, there is one name that's missing from that list, and that's Jalen Ramsey, who was traded to the Dolphins. Now, how much did that really matter? I mean, for the Rams, it was a good thing because Jalen Ramsey is going to be missing most, if not the entire year, with a fully torn meniscus that he had to have surgery on. So he's not with the Rams anymore. And going into the season, the top corners for the Rams are going to be Robert Rochelle, who's going into his third season with the Rams. And he has one interception in 28 games played. All right, the number two right now is Kobe Durant, who had four interceptions in his rookie year. There's promise with him. And currently, the third corner on the depth chart is Trey Tomlinson, who was drafted in the sixth round in 2023. So the Rams have pretty much hit the reset button. You look at everything that they've done throughout the offseason, Taylor Rapp, Ashawn Robinson, Nick Scott, Troy Hill, they're all on different teams now, except for Troy Hill, who's still a free agent. But there's so many veterans, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that aren't there anymore, and they're trying to have youth on the team. I believe they ended up with 14 draft picks this year by the end of the draft, and so they're trying to find guys that can come in and make an impact on rookie contracts. They need to get the payroll down. They pretty much sold out to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be difficult for them this year, but they're going to try to make it work with a lot of young guys. All right, and one of the other veterans that left was David Andrews. And David Andrews leaving leaves a pretty big hole in the offensive line for the Rams. Now, just before I started recording this video, the Rams did trade for Kevin Dotson to add to that offensive line. All right, and on ESPN, they've already updated the Rams roster, and he's currently slotted in as the second string left guard behind rookie Steve Avila. And Steve Avila was drafted in the second round and is going to start right away. All right, look, protecting Matthew Stafford is the highest priority for this team. So the young guys that are up front have a lot on their shoulders, right? Like, it's just the way it is. They still have Rob Havenstein at right tackle, so that's nice. Joe Noteboom was good pretty much right out the gate and is able to slide in on left tackle. So they're trying to get the middle of that line figured out. But again, a lot of it is young. And Matthew Stafford, he's a tough dude, man. He's one of the toughest quarterbacks in the league. But he's getting older and he keeps getting hurt. Like he's got a lot of injuries in his career. And last year was a pretty scary injury. It was scary enough of an injury that there was talk about him not playing football anymore. And I'd actually heard on the Pat McAfee show that it's basically the same injury that former center AQ Shipley got, that basically the doctors told him, like, you have to retire. You can't be doing what you do anymore. You need to retire immediately. And so he never played football again. So for multiple reasons here, Matthew Stafford needs to be protected. But specifically talking about football, you got to protect the quarterback if you want anything to work in the offense this day and age, right? And you still have Cam Akers. We'll see Kyron Williams coming back this year. Wasn't able to play last year due to injury, but there's a lot of hype behind him last year before the injury, and I think he can be really good. But Sean McVay has an affinity for Cam Akers, so he's currently still the starter. Right, so we've talked a lot about the offense, and overall, like I mentioned earlier, the defense could be really bad. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it's a youth movement on that side of the ball, so I understand what they're trying to do. But what was one of the best defenses in the league for a couple of years is about to turn into one of the league's worst. And this might be the worst defense in the league. Like what we've seen from the Falcons the last couple of years, kind of bad. So could be rough, but we'll see what kind of coaching job these guys can do. All right. So with that said, let's get into the schedule real quick. So to start the season, the Rams are going to start with two divisional games. They're at Seattle and then at home against the 49ers. And I have the Rams losing both those games. I think there's just no question that both those teams are better than the Rams this year. Same with the Bengals in week 3 going into Cincinnati. Bengals are just, they're on a different level this year. Okay, and then going into week 4 against the Colts. I'm wearing my hat, so you're going to call me biased, but I think the Colts are going to be able to win this game. I just don't think the Rams defense is going to be good enough to stop Anthony Richardson in that offense, that new Shane Steichen offense that had so much success with Jalen Hurts in Philly. I think by week 4, the Colts are going to be running it pretty well. And honestly, I think Jonathan Taylor is still going to be a Colt. So go ahead, give me the Colts to win week 4, and the Rams will start their season 0-4 as they go back to LA to play a game against the Eagles. This is another one where the Rams just don't stand a chance, in my opinion. So they start the year 0-5 after they lose to the Eagles, and then they get a couple wins, right? They play the Cardinals in week 6. They play the Steelers in week 7. I think the Cardinals is definitely a winnable game. The Steelers could be a little less winnable, but this is one that I was like, upsets happen. There's some star power on the Rams. They're not going to be completely awful this year. So I went ahead and gave them the win against the Steelers. Okay. And then week 8, they get the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Cowboys. Cowboys are stacked on both sides of the ball this year, especially after trading for both Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. They are absolutely loaded, and I think they'll have no problem with the Rams. Then going into the back end of the schedule, things get better for the Rams, right? In week 9, they get the Packers. I have them beating the Packers as they go into their bye week, have a chance to reset and kind of figure out what they're going to be to end the season. Okay, and by this time, a lot of these young guys are getting experience. A lot of these rookies and second-year guys are getting more experience now, and they're starting to get into the fold of things and starting to figure out what it takes to find greatness in the NFL. And Sean McVay is a good coach. He's going to be able to get the best out of these guys by the end of the season. So I think after the bye week is when we're going to see things really pick up for the Rams, and they're going to be able to finish things off well in the 2023 season and look ahead to the new era after Matthew Stafford retires inevitably after this season. All right, but to finish the year, the Rams get Seattle right after the bye week, but this time it's in LA, and I have LA winning this game. Okay, and then week 12, they get the Cardinals in Arizona, but they beat the Cardinals. Week 13, they host the Browns in LA, and they're beating the Browns. Okay, so nice little win streak here between week 9 and week 13. They rattle off 4 wins and have a bye week. It's a nice stretch right there. But then they get the Ravens in week 14, and they're just not going to be able to beat the Ravens. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, except for if Lamar's not there. Obviously, that's a circumstance. So, if Lamar's not there, sure, they might win that game. But that's the only circumstance, in my opinion. I think the Ravens should have no problem with the Rams. Okay, then you move on. They play Washington and New Orleans the next couple weeks after that. New Orleans is a Thursday night game in week 16, and I have the Rams winning both of those games. Then I had them losing the last 2 games this season against the Giants and against the Niners, both of those being road games. And if you've been keeping track, I have the Rams finishing the season 8-9, which I must admit is much more optimistic than what I originally had them at. But I went back through and I got more real and thought, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, if they're able to stay healthy, like they can be really good, just those 2 alone. Aaron Donald changes games for the defense. He's a different kind of football player. Like him by himself can win games for you. Just being able to disrupt the run game, disrupt how the pass game is working from game to game, being able to create turnovers. So with the star power there, I gave him a couple extra wins. I think I originally had him at 5-12. Once again, finishing 5-12. But with the guys coming back, I figured I'd give them a couple wins. Those guys are worth that much, but not enough to get into the playoffs. They end up as the 8th seed in the NFC for me. All right, so with that said, that's going to finish this episode of Division Debates. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on to stay up to date on Division Debates. Going to really start rolling them out. Got a little behind on you guys, but really going to start rolling them out here over the next week and a half or so as we lead into the NFL season. So be sure to come back for those. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll see you for the next video.